This is the A34 Comet in 1:35 scale. Hello, this is BJ from Hearns Hobbies, and I'll be looking at the brand new Tamiya kit. This is the A34 Comet in 1:35 scale, and this is a British tank from late in World War II. So let's have a closer look down here. Now this is a brand new toolkit. It has a lot of great features in it, which I'll go through as I open it up and look at. So we've got two figures included. It's very common for Tamiya to be including figures, and they're very nice figures like their early stuff, well, their late stuff I should say, because they've used 3D scanning these days to assist in the sculpting of them. The way that the kit has actually been designed is quite innovative. It maintains a high level of detail in every single part. So even in the sides where you'd think there'll be shortcomings from the mold, we've actually been able to make a super detailed kit here. So this particular tank arrived very late in the war. It was developed during World War II to combat some of the high-powered tanks from Germany. And this actually has the 17-pounder gun, which was quite common on the Firefly. And that actually had more firepower than the 75mm gun in the Panther. So this could destroy many of the heavy German tanks. Was used during Normandy and throughout the rest of the war, and then it continued being used after the war as well. Now let's have a look at the kit itself. So we've got our box full of bits, all in the green plastic. Now let's open them up and have a closer look. All right, so we've got this sprue here. Now this one has the barrel of the gun, you can see here. We've got the cupolas. There's two different types of exhaust deflector. So that's the Normandy one, which is the full, and then there was a split, which was the updated version. So there's two versions to bear in mind as you're building it. Just make sure you get all the bits right. It's not a great difference, but that is one of the major differences here. So that was a deflector to make sure that anyone that was sitting on the back didn't get choked up with all the exhaust fumes. We've got some tools here. There's the rear tow hook thing. We've got some cables, and we've got some hatches as well. Let's get a close look at this stuff. As you expect from Tamiya, absolutely crisp. No mention, or you can't spot any flash at all. It's very clever how they've done the curving of the cables here. So they'll be sitting like that. Looks really natural. The barrel is really clever too, because it is almost one piece. You can see how the center here is molded, and then just at the end here, the muzzle is in two pieces. So this maintains a super straight and very true shape for the barrel. Because quite often you find armor kits, the barrels are split in half, and then you have to worry about sanding it, and then after you squeeze it together, it might look elongated. But molded all in one, super clean. Just needs a slight sand, get rid of that mold line down the center, and then glue on the other side of the muzzle. It's all good. Over here you see sections of the birdcage type sight, which is in front of the commander's cupola. We've got the hatches here. Now the hatches have the, I guess it would be common these days, the open type hinges. So you can either glue them in the closed position or in the open position. We've got the cover for the main gun. Got the engine cover. See how you got the really sharp panel lines there. We've got the grille there as well. See how that's super sharp. And there's some other little tools and parts for size of the tank. So here you can see the cupola, multi-piece. So quite a common thing of a lot of complicated tanks, I guess Meng and even Tamiya themselves, they used to give you clear periscopes that used to be glued into here. Now I mean, clear periscopes is a good idea I guess, because it's got that glass look, but quite honestly you can't really see them much. They do take a lot of assembly, and you will get some detail on the bottom as well, right? Because the periscope sits down. So if you've got an open hatch, you may see that sort of detail. But most of the time, you won't. So stuff like this where all those periscopes are already molded in, you can quite easily achieve a realistic look just by painting those black and then putting a gloss coat over the top after you've done the flat over the whole tank, and that'll give you that glass reflective look. Okay, let's move on to the next sprue. So from there we've got this is a huge chunky sprue here. This has got the majority of the structure of the tank on it. So you'll see that the hull is in multi-pieces. It's a very boxy sort of tank. It doesn't have sort of curved hull like so. And quite often when you see curved hull tank kits, that'll be molded in one sort of bathtub type of thing. Because it's very flat-sided, it's multiple pieces. So you've got sides here, and then you have suspension hanging off that, and then actually you have the suspension hanging off here actually, and then this is like the applique armor that goes over the top. You've got the sides of the fenders as well, and then here you've got front fenders and rear fenders, and then we've got the same sort of idea, multi-piece for the turret, because very square edged, and quite often you get the turret, like a Sherman turret is cast, right? So it's all rounded, which makes sense for a two-piece plastic mold. They're easier to cast and mold in two pieces. But here, where you've got flat sides, if you try to do that in one piece, you'll lose all these details because they'll be totally flattened. So multi-piece. So in some ways it's been simplified, like I was talking about the periscopes. In other ways it's been complicated because they've cut it up more. But these sort of things are quite easy to put together, whereas periscopes are more fiddly. So this is a clever thing. Also, I should note, let's just zoom in. You can see all the details on the top of the turret. So you've got the commander's cupola here, the loader's hatch. You've got the sides of the turret. This is where you're going to have some of these spare tracks hanging off. This part here, which is the fabric covered mantlet of the gun. You can see how they've been able to put in all the really natural sitting creases. But to do this right, you can't actually have a working mantlet. Quite often in an armor kit, they'll be hinged, so you can actually get the gun to elevate up and down. I mean, that's fine as a gimmick, but most of the time, it's not needed. And particularly if you do it like this, if it had this cover, you wouldn't be able to do that successfully because this isn't fabric. It's not going to move as you move the gun up and down. So this has got a fixed gun position. So there's no hinges here. So this will be glued straight onto the turret right here. So no hinges, but I mean it's going to be in a very natural position anyway for the gun. And you've got some other bits and pieces there. Okay, so that's the huge sprue there with the hull. Got some clear section here. Don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but I don't think you use very much of it except for the lens for the spotlight, which is next to the commander. So there's quite a few things on here, but I'm pretty sure you only use that one lens right there. And again, they're super clear. Okay, let's pop that back in the bag so it doesn't get damaged. And let's move on to our next sprue. This one here. Now these are the tracks and all the wheels, and we also have a little packet of poly caps. So that'll be for the drive sprockets, just hold them in place. So what we have here are two identical sprues, because you'll have tracks for left and for right. So they've mirrored it and they've been able to make just a simple one mold and being able to produce the two lots that you need for the kit. Now a really clever thing about this is they've been able to make the tracks very highly detailed, but not individual. Now individual tracks, if you've done them before, they can be quite troublesome. Especially, the whole idea is to get that really natural looking sort of sag. And if you don't do it right or you don't have the experience, you can't get the sag even. Now what they've done here is Tamiya's actually molded the sag within here. So this is one of the top sitting sets of track, and that fits into a particular position. It's actually locked into one of the idler wheels, and I'll show you that in the instructions later, which is quite innovative. If I do this, you'll be able to see how the mold is actually curved. So that's going with the sag of that particular track. Now being partially straight and then having some individuals for the curved areas allows you to have that really authentic look without a heap of work. Because you can imagine doing like 80 links of track per side can be quite tedious. So this being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 larger pieces, and 2, 4, 6, 8, 16 smaller pieces, it's going to be a lot easier to deal with. Let's get a closer look at that and I'll show you what sort of detail we're going to have. Right, so these are all your individual track links. And then here's all your molded sections. So you can see that one there. These have a curve in them, so they'll be sitting on the ends. Got some flats here, and you got a long flat here. Okay, so this is the base where the tank's going to be sitting onto the surface. And then here is where you've got the sag. And you can see the sag just there. It's really nice. Done a really good job on this. And then you've got another straight section here. From there, you've got the road wheels. See all the bolt patterns on the inside. So sprockets as well. You've got some really nice surface detail. All the bolts. You got your drive bogies. Right there, we've got some little bits and pieces that go, the little idlers there. The rear idler. You got the eyelets for your cable. A few odds and ends. So there's a pistol and holster, American style helmet, and some ammo bags. Okay, so that's the 2 sprue of the drive system. So pop those over there. And then we're left with one large sprue here. And this has got other big parts for the hull. So here's the other large parts of the hull. You got the base of the hull, you got the sides, front, back, got the engine cover, the turret ring, and then you've got your figures here. Figures are superb. There's a front end with the ball mounted machine gun, and also the driver's hatch. So you can see all the surface detail that is on the rear, or the engine cover, I guess. There's the turret ring. So it's a massive turret ring for a small chassis, and it needs to be able to house that really high velocity gun. Now let's have a closer look at, let's get the heads, I think. So the heads are absolutely superb, and also the folds in all the fabric on the uniforms. So split them in half, and then you got your heads, and then the arms separate. Very nice. And then there's the base of the hull, and these are the sides of the hull where all the bogies will attach, and then there's an replica armor that goes over the top of this. So that's all the bits there. Now from there we've got some decals. Decals are quite minimal. We've got some divisional markings. You won't be able to see them very clearly because there's the protective tissue in there, but then you've got the star which is on the top of the turret for aerial recognition. Okay, from there we've got some documentation. They have a separate little leaflet with some diagrams and photos of the actual tank, and it's in multiple languages. So we've got Japanese first, and then we've got English, and then also German. And then over here we have the 2 versions that are included in the kit. So you've got a Normandy version. So Normandy's got that big deflector, and then you have the later version which has got the split deflector right there. There's a few other little changes too. So there's a couple of little panels on the back of this one on the later version, and there's none on the earlier version. But predominantly the rest of the tank is pretty much the same. So that's a painting chart and also your decal placement. Okay, so let's put that aside. Now what have we got left? Which means we've got the manual left. Okay, so the manual here, on the front we've got a photo of the actual kit that's been built. You've got a paint chart here which has got the numbers for Tamiya, and then some recommended tools. That's pretty standard Tamiya manual. All right, as we open it up, we have building of the hull. You have bulkheads going in, they support the sides. Bogies, and then the applique armor on the sides. Front. And then the top, we've got the idler supports. And then we start getting into the ball mounted machine gun at the front with the driver's compartment mounted into place. The top was the turret ring. the hatches on the sides for the radio operator and also the driver. And then you do engine hatch, the grille. This is where you have to pay attention to which version you're building. So there's the A version or the B version. So there's a couple of things that you have to do to fit those additional parts. Got the idler wheels going in. And then this is a clever part here. So you got most of the idler going into the 3 points, but there's one special one with a little tongue on it. And that will fit a particular way onto the mounting point. And that tongue sits up. And this actually locks that sagging part of the track into the correct position. So there's no way of getting it all misaligned. So none of that, you know, sometimes Meng, they give you that special jig for building up your tracks. Well, this basically acts like the jig amongst all the wheels. You get your sprocket that's going together. Then we've got all of our road wheels. They're all pressed into place, both sides. And then here's the construction of the tracks. And as you can see, because they've got quite a few already, I guess, long lengths, it's not particularly difficult to put it together. And this is the tongue here. So you notice that this point is where you start with. So once you have this point here, you'll be able to wrap the rest of the track around and make it fit absolutely perfectly. So same with the left or the right. And you just got to pay attention that you get the tracks going the right direction. And that's pretty much there. We've got the track covers, the fenders, front and back. We've got the toolboxes going each side of the turret ring. Oh, there's the rear fenders right there. The covers, a few of the little bits and pieces like the road wheel, the road lights, I should say, rear vision mirror. We've got the tools, so that's all the cable going on the back. Some toe rings, little hole bits on the back. We've got the tow hook. And then you've got your smoke discharges. And then this is the choice for the exhaust deflectors. So the full length one here, which is for the Normandy. And then this one is the later version with the indentation in there. So the whole idea of the split section was that when you had the gun spun around, facing backwards, you could have it locked into position between that without rubbing too much. Then we get into construction of the turret. So multi-piece turret there. You see these are the supports for the driver and the loader. Roof goes on. This is the birdcage sight. And then we do the turret cupola right there. This will be for the commander. And then you've got all the stuff on the top. So commander's cupola, the sight, you've got this deflector here. And then there's all these bits on top of the hull. So ventilation ports and such. You've got the coax machine gun going into the mantlet. And then that's glued into place onto the turret. Over here you see that one piece barrel and then the 2-piece muzzle. Over here we've got the storage box that goes in the back of the turret. And then we've got the light. That's where the clear part is used right there. That's the lens for the spot lamp. We get that bayonet fixed onto the hull. And then you've got the spare parts which are going on. So spare links for the tracks. They're going on the sides of the turret. You can use a helmet any way you like. And then we have the figures right here. The commander and then the loader figure. You got the hatches. So this is showing the hatches open. And these can also be glued closed if you prefer. You get your figures in there. And that's it. That is the brand new Comet kit. So do yourself a favor, grab one of these brand new Comets. Superb kit, as you saw, really nicely designed, very interesting looking tank, and it's quite late in the war. I'm not sure if this has been done as a kit before or if many people know about the Comet tank itself. So there we go. That is the brand new Tamiya 1/35 scale Comet kit. So if you like that review, please give me a like below. And if you'd like to see more content like this, please consider subscribing. So thank you for joining me.